Welcome, friends. Today, I'm here to tell a tale about a famous poet and his integral part in the Indianist movement. His name is Edward Dorn. He was best known for his poetry and teaching. He was often associated with the Black American Poets group of the 20th century poets centered on Black Mountain College in North Carolina, changing the traditional call for poetry to open verse poetry and based on the line, and each line was to be a unit of breath and utterance. His famous poem being The Gunslinger. Edward Dorn grew up in Villa Grove, Illinois, in rural poverty during the Great Depression. He attended a one-room schoolhouse till 8th grade. He studied at the University of Illinois, Black Mountain College, where Charles Olson greatly influenced his literary worldview and sensed himself as a poet. His final examiner was Robert Creeley, along with Robert Duncan. Edward Dorn became included in the trio of poets later associated with Black Mountain and Charles Olson, who had worked on President Roosevelt's campaign, whereas after Roosevelt's death, he aspired himself as a writer and teacher, liking to encourage and inspire young writers. Robert Duncan, along with the same lines, both had works of writing published worldwide and had great influence on Edward Dorn. In 1951, Edward Dorn left Black Mountain and got a job as a manual laborer. He met his first wife, Helen, and they returned to school in 1954. After graduating and traveling for 2 years, they settled in Washington State, the setting for his first book, The Sound, an autobiographical novel titled as Rites of Passage, describing his grinding poverty of life, the basement stratum of society. In 1961, he landed a teaching job at Idaho University and published State, the magazine, Wild Dog, and his first book of poetry, The Newly Fallen, 1961. Wild Dog, a student press magazine of the college. In 1965, with the photographer Leroy Lucas, Dorn visited the Indian reservation for a book, The Shoshones. Later, he was invited to join the faculty at the literature department he created at the New University of Essex, England, where he spent 5 years publishing several collections of poems and wrote book 1 of Gunslinger. He started working with Gordon Brotherston on translations from Latin American texts, forming a close relationship with British poet J.H. Prynne, and meeting his second wife, Jennifer Dunbar. Gordon Brotherston, a professor at the university, and J.H. Prynne, well-known British writer and poet. Jennifer Dunbar Dorn, writer, filmmaker, editor of his collected poems, 2012. In the 1970s, they returned to the States and collaborated on many projects with well-known comic book affiliations and the typesetting for his Gunslinger series in 1974. In 1977, he received a professorship at the University of Colorado, Boulder, where he directed the creative writing programs and editing. The literary newspaper Rolling Stock. Motto of the paper was, "If it moves, print it." December 10th, 1999, Edward passed from pancreatic cancer, writing poems titled Kemosabe, reporting about his cancer treatments. Popular horror novelist Stephen King admired Dorn, describing his poetry as talismans of perfect writing, and named his first novel, the Dark Tower series, The Gunslinger, after Edward Dorn's poem. King opened his prologue of his book with Dorn's poetry line, "We need help," the poet reckoned. Dorn's wife, Jennifer Dunbar, edited and published her husband's collected poems, and also writes her own poems and writings on the mysteries and wonders of the universe. I will link some of her work and, of course, Edward Dorn's work down below. In his love poetry, such as 9 Songs, he shows as loosely contemporary and similar to Elizabethan compression and courtliness. There are, each time I talk of it, reflections of my love in her eyes. There is nothing that fact can surprise, of all the elaboration of whatever syntax it is within me to devise, can raise her lashes to me, mine, more than what was given, mine to hers. That is one excerpt of one of his love poems. In Gunslinger, a strange long poem, a quest in which a gunslinger riding a drug-talking horse named Levi Strauss searches for Howard Hughes, the American West being Dorn's imaginative home, and his poem an extraordinary feat of imagination, humor, illusion, and lyric invention. Such as the narrator congratulating the gunslinger on the speed of his draw. "You make the air dark with the beauty of your speed. Gunslinger, the air separates and reunites as if lightning had cut past, leaving behind a simple experience." And I will put the link down below. Edward Dorn wrote 54 works of literature. And on a last note, in the early 70s, as a visiting poet at Kent State University, Dorn, along with British poet Eric Mottram, was a mentor of the popular musical group of the time, Devo, and founders Gerald Casale and Bob Lewis. In my youth, I was a tireless dancer, but now I pass graveyards in a car. The dead lie in superstitiously with their feet toward me. Please forgive me for saying the tombstones would not fancy their faces turned from the highway. Oh, perish the thought I was thinking in that moment. Newman, Illinois, to Saturday night dance. What a life. Would I like it again? No. Once I returned late summer from California, thin from journeying, and the girls were not the same. You'll say that's natural. They had been dancing all the time. Finding amazing people at this cemetery has been such a eye-opening and enlightening time, because I'm working here in Boulder. Today is my last day, and I go back, and I'm very excited and happy to be able to bring you along with me and tell these stories. Along with Edward Dorn, I have a special tribute that I would like to share, and her name is Lucia Berlin. Lucia Berlin was an American short story writer with a small literary following, devoted. But she didn't reach a mass audience in her lifetime. She rose to sudden literary fame 11 years after her death with a manual for a cleaning woman, hitting the New York bestsellers list in its second week and outselling all her previous works. Lucia was born in Juneau, Alaska, spending her childhood on the move. Her father, a mining engineer. The family lived in mining camps in Idaho, Montana, Arizona, and Chile. As an adult, she lived in New Mexico, New York City, North and South California, and Colorado. Lucia began publishing later in life under the encouragement and tutelage of her next-door neighbor friend, Edward Dorn. How amazing is this? And soon you'll see what I mean. This is a wondrous sight to me, to be laying at rest next to your friend, confident hero. Lucia began publishing later in life under the encouragement and tutelage of Edward Dorn. She had small collections of stories published in 1960, and her first small collection in 1981, Angel's Laundromat, publishing 76 stories in her lifetime, appearing in magazines, 6 collections of stories, 3 later volumes from Black Sparrow Books. Lucia Berlin was never a bestseller, but was widely influential with the literary community. She won the Jack London Short Prize for 1985 with a 1-page story, My Jockey, also winning an American Book Award in 1991 for Homesick short story and a fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. Lucia has received rave reviews for her works, although later on in life and after her death. What I wish is she could have been here in person to see the awe-inspiring reviews she has received and how her book has gone over so amazing since 2015. Yet in the end, she knows as writer, we write to give our words to the world. Whenever it happens, as writers, we write because we love to write. Lucia married 3 times and has 4 sons. She was plagued with double scoliosis. Her crooked spine punctured one of her lungs and then was never seen without an oxygen tank from 1994 to 2009. She retired when her condition grew worse and developed lung cancer. If you hear in the background, the drum line is practicing for Colorado University. She struggled with radiation therapy where she said it felt like having one's bones ground to dust. As her health deteriorated, she moved from Boulder to her son's house in LA, her breathing easier. Boulder's elevation exacerbated her lung problems. Lucia passed away in her home in Marina del Rey on her 68th birthday, with one of her favorite books in her hands. A beautiful, intelligent, compelling writer. A manual for a cleaning woman written by Lucia Berlin, crafting miracles from the everyday, uncovering moments of grace in the laundromats and halfway houses of the American Southwest, in the homes of the Bay Area, upper class, and among switchboard operators, struggling mothers, hitchhikers, and other people she observed. I also wanted to add a little spiritual note that comes along with this work, and it happens to me every time. I always get messages and guidance from these stories that I tell, and that's why I love to do this. I had just got done telling the tale of Thurlow Lawrence, who's right across the way over here. So I was leaving the cemetery, and I was coming around the corner, and I thought I could go left and leave the cemetery right away, but I decided to go straight for some reason, which I know why. I drove past Edward Dorn, and I saw him, and I was like, there's Edward Dorn, because I was going to do a story later this week. So I stopped, and I was like, cool, he's right here. Like, he's right by the road. And then right next to him is his good friend, Lucia Berlin. And she was a writer, too. I feel akin to these people. I wish I could have knew them in person. But I'm very intrigued by knowing about them now. Because it's also a story of don't ever give up on your dreams. Whether you're a writer, or a poet, or a singer, in some form of another, you're going to get your work out there. And no matter what, even if it might not be in your lifetime, it's going to get recognized. And it's going to be seen by someone, and it's going to bring and inspiration. This is why I love doing this. It's fun, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it can be sad. It can bring strange dreams and messages and guidance. But for the most part, it's extremely positive and deep. And I've always wanted to know a little bit more. Always wanted to know what was lying underneath. Not just what was shown, but what was in the heart. What inspires you? What motivates you? Find it and go for it. Just like these beautiful people did. And they both wrote amazing works, as did Thurlow, and all the stories that I'm going to tell. So I will leave you with this for now. I have more tales from beyond to go to. And until then, radiate what you want to come to you. Radiate that out to the world like a radio. And it will come. Just know that it will come. Please give my videos a like. It helps me on my journey. And subscribe and share my stories. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. May there be peace for everyone and everything. May all who lie here rest easy and be at peace.